Hi, hello. Welcome to the episode of Isaiah's Newsstand. It's your host, Isaiah Edwards. The date is June the 11th, 2026. Hopefully, this episode finds you well, in good spirits and high hopes. As for me, I'm doing pretty good. We'll say I didn't have the best day, if I'm being completely honest, but overall, we got through the day. Um, but yeah, we can just start from the top. I got up. I slept pretty well, and that's nice. I feel like overall, for most of this week, we've been good on the sleep, which I'll take. I appreciate that. Um, got ourselves together. We got to work. Work was a pretty slow affair. Not much to ho hum about. In fact, I even got out a bit earlier than I even had scheduled to be out. But really, the work wasn't the issue for the day. I just really kind of came to the conclusion that there's something going on with me physically, medically. I don't know. So I made the decision to say, hey, I'm gonna, find a general practitioner or something like that. And I set up an appointment because I didn't just want to do what I've been doing for years, which is just going to urgent care and then kind of not liking that's something I would do when I had a cold or like during the COVID stuff. But I think literally COVID was actually the thing that turned me off of it because just the whole process just didn't seem worth going to anymore. So, needless to say, I'm trying to do the adult thing here, and I'm hoping, I'm knocking on wood, praying to the stars above that everything's gonna be okay. Hopefully, I'm good. And but yeah, I don't know. Gotta get them things tended to, so to speak. So that's been on my mind. It kind of took me out for most of the day because I was just worrying about that, and I set that up. It shouldn't take long, but I then had to do laundry. So I was like, okay, let's go ahead and rally. Let's get that done. And laundry did get done. I will say it was busy. I don't know if Thursdays are usually busy. It feels like over the past few that I've done so far, they haven't been. But this one was definitely like a crowded parking lot situation. But we got it done. I came home and I was, after I was done folding everything, I was like fixing to go to the gym. We had the time since I got out so early from work, but mentally I just still wasn't feeling it. I just was kind of out of sorts in a way. I think that was really the biggest issue, the main issue. Also, my ankle is still hurting. So, it really was feeling 35, man. I don't know. I was feeling like an old chopped unk, and I just really I wasn't into it. I was like, I'm just going to rot in my house for the rest of the night. So then I made some food and then had a little bit of my snack. And I was fixing to, get my research together, get my news and stuff in order. I did a pass, and I just like yet again, I was just like, I don't want to do it right now. I can't do it right now. I'd rather try to go to sleep. Try to lay down. I couldn't sleep, and I'm like, all right, maybe that's the microphone calling me. Let's get up. Let's get this episode in, and we'll see how we feel after that. So here we are. A bit of a strange day, if you will. That's just what it is. I am happy to be here. It is moments like today, it's days like today that can be a little bit off-putting, but also like a good reminder that I don't know. That life is worth living. You gotta do the best you can to make sure that you're good, and not sweep things under the rug. I don't know. Anyway, um, let's go ahead and do our startup, and let's get into the news. I also will say too. I think the startup is going to be a little bit different for a little bit. Not that you're going to notice too much, but I think we are going to go of the more, how do you say, California variety. I think I'm really going to try to cut down on the alcohol and the caffeine for at least a week. Kind of call it a cleanse, if you will, and see how that is going to help maybe make me feel, or if things don't change or whatever. Of course, naturally, I'm going to lean on whatever, the doctor's going to, hit me up with, let me know what's going on. Hopefully I can get some answers there. But at this point, I'm definitely like, okay, like I'm willing to make some changes. Anyway. Ooh. Now, if I was really about like the 100, 360, new shit, we would definitely be spending some time talking about sports. Maybe I was in a better mood, that would be nice, but I don't have anything, set for that. But I will say in basketball, the Knicks won. They won the playoffs. They beat the Spurs. That was a big deal. I really wasn't paying that much attention to the game, but like hearing, the big comeback by the Knicks was pretty cool. All the same. Also, the World Cup started. Um, which awesome. Love I love the World Cup, at least in terms of the idea of it. I love the spirit of the competition. Go football, go soccer, however you want to fucking say it, whatever. I will say though that just some of the headlines kind of starting off were a bit disheartening. The fact that like referees couldn't get admission into the states. Um, what is it? The Iran football team is having a hell of a time trying to get, like, they were allowed to come, despite the whole conflict, the whole war shit that we're about to talk about. But just a lot of harrowing, just blocking, trying to get approved, getting your whole roster, getting your whole like staff approved has not been easy. So that's disheartening. Also, just people and tickets is taking place in America and then also taking place in Mexico. But in both situations, it's so expensive that, I mean, you're paying thousands of dollars for tickets. And I think it can suck, but it's in your host, like you're hosting this in terms of if you're from Mexico or the U.S. and you can barely afford the whole affair. Not to mention they won't even let you bring in like water bottles, which, I mean, I'm sure normal like, avid concert goers, you're not new to that kind of tactic, but it's just really shitty to see, especially when we're talking about like you know really hot temperatures and like once again, you've already paid all this money to get into the venue, to get to the place potentially, and now I can't even have a water bottle. I gotta pay for an overpriced one. Like that's out of pocket. That's crazy. But needless to say, like I said, once again, go football, go soccer, go Viva the World Cup, whatever. I don't know, but definitely the politics around it, definitely have sucked, given that the U.S. involvement, if you will. Anyway, let me get to the news that I really wanted to talk about, the main stuff, or at least to me. Let's see here from the BBC. 3 Indian sailors killed in U.S. strike on oil tanker. 3 Indian sailors have been confirmed killed after the U.S. military struck a tanker in the Gulf of Oman, which it accused of violating its blockade on Iranian ports. The MT Setabello came under attack on Wednesday with 24 Indian crew on board, of whom 21 were rescued. In a post on X, India's shipping minister Banada Sonawal said the 3 men's bodies will be brought home soon. The U.S. has struck 3 ships in the Gulf this week, all with Indian crew on board. So I guess you could say that we're doing the hashtag boat watch. It's now being extended, to new fronts, which is very unfortunate because essentially you're saying, hey, we are so about this blockade that we're not just going to kill Iranians, but we're also going to kill people we're allied with. We're going to just risk it. That's fine. It is worth the potential loss. Let's see. On Thursday, Delhi said all 20 of on the Jalvir were safe after a strike off Oman. 3 days earlier, the 24 Indian crew on sanctioned oil tanker the Marivex were rescued before it sank. CENTCOM confirmed it struck both ships. India's Ministry of Ports, Shipping and Waterways Additional Secretary Mirkesh Mangal said the 3 seamen on board the Setabello who died were Aditya Sharma, a cadet, Shevarand Kurashia, a fitter, and Patnalia Shares, a chief engineer. Let's see here. They do have more details and a bit of a recap in this article, but I wanted to move on to a bit of the part two in terms of like fallout from this week in the Iran war. From Al Jazeera, U.S. bombs Iran water facilities. Let's see. The United States and Iran engaged in some of the most intense fighting overnight since all out hostilities in the ongoing U.S. Israeli war in Iran were halted with a Pakistan mediated temporary ceasefire on April 8th. A comprehensive peace agreement remains elusive as Iran and the U.S. have exchanged a series of proposals and counterproposals in the weeks since that pause. After a spring of smaller escalations, however, the U.S. targets in Iran following the downing of a U.S. Apache helicopter close to the Strait of Hormuz on Tuesday, and Iran retaliated by hitting U.S. military bases in the Gulf. The U.S. military said it targeted communications and radar facilities. Iranian officials, however, said civilian infrastructure was also damaged, including two water reservoirs. If this is correct, this is the first reported strike on civilian infrastructure in Iran in several weeks, but it comes at a time when Iran is facing a severe water shortage. So yeah, we've talked about a little bit. It's been a while since we've actually emphasized it, but outside of the economic hardships that Iran is going through, they also have a drought they've been going through for years. So specifically targeting water reservoirs, desalination, facilities and all this kind of shit, water treatment stuff, that is a war crime. And, essentially we're like, well, it's tit for tat. You hit our helicopter so we can do whatever the fuck we want. This is equal and measured, at least according to us. According to Trump and, old Hegseth. Excuse me. So I just wanted to emphasize that. At this point, I'm sure people are like, well, that's just war. That's how it goes. But it's like, these are war crimes and atrocities we are committing along the way for whatever the fuck that's worth these days. I feel like it's worth mentioning. It's worth talking about. But yeah, the beat goes on. Trump is still saying like, peace is just around the corner, guys. We got a deal. We're working towards it. We're so close. And it's like, dude, you're just saying that for the market's sake, it feels like, because literally every day it just seems like things are just rationing back up, back up, back up. Maybe it calms down a little bit, but, it just seems like the ceasefire is just saying, hey, we're doing a bit of a refined aggression, or not even refined, reduced. Yeah, that's a better word to use. Let me move on, though, taking it to the States. Let me take a water break, though. All right. From the Associated Press. Man pleads guilty to killing a top Minnesota Democrat and her husband while posing as an officer. A Minnesota man who pleaded guilty Thursday to killing a top Democratic lawmaker and her husband admitted he spent months identifying elected officials to target and stalk them before driving to their homes in the middle of the night dressed as a police officer with the intention of killing them. The Minneapolis area attacks last summer by Vance Butler, 58, sparked the largest police search in state history and reverberated across the country, with elected officials fearing that escalating threats and polarization could lead to more violence. Butler pleaded guilty so that federal prosecutors would not seek the death penalty. Instead, he agreed to serve 2 consecutive life sentences plus 40 years. Now they go through the actual incident, the killings, I should say. I know sometimes I go through these for today's sake, my mental health, maybe y'all's mental health. I'm not. So I reread it in this situation. But yeah, by all means, you can always get to the article and read it. But yeah, we're gonna skip that in the situation. Let's see here. Bolter had let me read this part. Bolter had already been to the home of State Senator John Hoffman that night, shooting and critically injuring him and his wife Yvette while his daughter was nearby. But let's see. But both Melissa and Mark Hortman were killed. Essentially, he had used his whole disguise, shot and killed both of them. TDLI there. Let's see here. Scrolling ahead a bit. Boulder also faces state charges, including 2 counts of murder and 4 counts of attempted murder, as well as charges of impersonating a police officer and animal cruelty. The Hortman family's golden retriever was gravely injured in the shootings and had to be euthanized. The Hennepin County Attorney's Office said Thursday that the federal plea agreement does not affect the state's case, which had been on hold pending the resolution of the federal case. So that might be something we come back to, I imagine, but at least it's good to know that he is going to be, locked up and away for a very long time. Uh, Pluck a little bit more here, I guess. Boulder and even evangelical. I don't know why I can't say that. Boulder, an evangelical Christian with politically conservative views, who had traveled to the Congo. Who traveled to Congo as a preacher and missionary, spent much of his life in the food service industry. He had been struggling to earn a living before the shootings after the failure of a security company he founded. Yeah, but none of that seems to be enough to be like, okay, so this equals I need to go on a political killing spree, and that will make my life better. That'll make my family's life better. Um, because it's crazy that this guy had, like, I believe a wife and kid, or ex-wife and kid. Um, Wild. Let's see here. Um, yeah, I'll read his last quote before we close this out. Dad went to war last night, Bolter messaged his family that morning. Words are not going to explain how sorry I am. It's like, dude, you just didn't have to do this. And there was so much forethought involved in this. He wasn't just going to say, hey, I'm going to hit one politician. He said, no, I'm going to kill this political, couple here. And then I'm going to go and then hit up another family as well. Like he had multiple intention, like murderous intention. I don't know, man. It boggles the mind. And then also I really had to like kind of refresh my memory on this case, because it's just one of those things where, if it's not something political, whether it's over some kind of racial thing, like in America and just internationally, there has been a lot of political violence in general, whether it be by gun, whether it be by knife. So, it's just one of those things where I had to like really kind of like pick through my brain and really recall this moment, which is sad. It's unfortunate because it just kind of goes to show that really, these tensions, this violence is still at a high. It hasn't really come down, at least in my mind, from what I've really covered and seen. I don't know. But yeah, we're going to move on to our next story, our last story for the day. Technically, I feel like this is much lighter, but I know some people on the right are really freaking out about this phrase, this series of numbers. But let me go ahead and take my last break, and we'll go ahead and close it out. All right. Once again, another story from the BBC. Police investigate 8647, written in grass on U.S. National Mall. U.S. police are investigating a large imprint of the numbers 8647 that were apparently drawn in the grass of the National Mall in Washington, D.C. 86 is a slang term for get rid of, and Trump administration officials claim that the numbers are meant to encourage violence against Trump, the 47th president. This is what they're trying to get James Comey for, because he was walking on the beach and he saw a thing. He saw the numerical pattern arranged in some seashells, and he's like, "Oh my gosh, look at this! I can't believe it." At least according to him. And he's saying, "Hey, I didn't know that this was supposed to be a term of assassinating the president." Some can just say, get rid of just means get him out of here, take him away, like an order, whatever. It's something that maybe be up for interpretation or debate. I feel like you could also wonder the merit of like, okay, dude, whatever, 8647 is like the closest thing to a let's go Brandon situation, I feel like, and they're screaming bloody fucking murder about it, quite literally. Meanwhile, it's like there are people who are actually trying to just shoot at you, numbers or not, numerology or fucking not. They're popping off around the White House like all the fucking time, unfortunately. Shit, you're trying to get a fucking bulletproof ballroom about it. U.S. Park Police responded to a report of vandalism at around 11:30 Eastern Time on Thursday morning. The agency said in a statement, "The cause of discoloration has not yet been determined. Grass samples have been collected for testing. The investigation is ongoing." Images of the grass show the numbers 8, 6, and 7, but the number 4 is not clearly visible. The investigation comes as U.S. prosecutors attempt to jail former director of FBI for a social media post in which the numbers were seen written on a beach in Seychelles by the seashore. Sorry. So yeah, and I don't know why the number like the 4 is so obscure. I honestly, when you look at it, because I do have it in the thumbnail, it just really it looks like a lot, but it doesn't look like much. And I also want to add to just my thoughts on the whole numerology bullshit. And, oh my god, the numbers. I think it's cringe to do it, honestly. Like, what are we accomplishing by even doing this sign style situation? Like, I don't know. How did you do it? Did you have on a little John Deere? It's lawn art. It's very liberal lawn art, and it doesn't really do anything. It doesn't move a mountain. It doesn't make a movement. So whatever. That's kind of how I feel about it. This really is a nothing burger thing, but because the Trump administration freaks out about it, it kind of makes it a little bit more worth covering, I guess, in its own way. But yeah, no, that's it. That's it. That's all I have for today. If you'd like to help out, support the effort I do with Patreon, patreon.com/Isaiah News. Become a newsie today. Free ways to hit me up, IsaiahNews1@gmail.com. Feel free to follow me or the podcast on any of the socials. Subscribe to the YouTube, follow on TikTok, follow on Spotify, follow on Apple Podcasts, wherever you like to listen. Leave a like, leave a cool comment. Sharing is caring. 5 stars on Spotify, 5 stars on Apple Podcasts are always appreciated. Thank you so much in advance. But if you don't do any of that, that's a-okay. On a day like today, a night like tonight, I'm really thankful that I get the opportunity to speak into a microphone, talk about my life, talk about my rises, my falls, my tragedies, my triumphs. It's nice to be able to have these moments and know that, I guess somewhere out there is someone potentially listening and sympathizing and understanding, or maybe even booing or rooting on my downfall. And I guess that would suck. That'd be a bit of a bummer. But at least it's a group project. I don't know. So I just appreciate you just hanging out with me regardless. So thanks so much for tuning in. Thanks so much for being a friend. And hopefully I see you soon for some more good news. I love ya. Bye-bye. Mwah.